Greetings. You're listening to Guiding Stars. I'm Kristin Fontana.
And I'm Rose Marcus.
And while Guiding Stars has been on the air for over 23 years now, this is the first time we're on video today. So welcome and thank you for joining us. This is so exciting, Rose. We get to teach live now, all these things we've been talking about for so long.
Oh, yeah, it's long overdue that we start this format.
Yes. We'll
Yeah.
be sharing some charts with you for those who are your avid astrologers wanting to know more about the month ahead. And as most of you know, we do join together the last week of the month to prepare you for the month ahead. And so we're going to be sharing the transits for the end of April and May, Taurus season. We've entered Taurus season now. So a lot going on, really, just even in the next few days, in the next week. It's just overwhelming when I look at the chart myself. What about you, Rose? What are you feeling?
Ah, well, I'm feeling high stress. Anybody else out there feeling high stress? I have to say, Mars is about to oppose Pluto. It will do that on Saturday. That is the 26th, April 26th. Yeah. And this is the end of a cycle that has been in effect since the beginning of November. Really, it was starting to activate in October. We've had three alignments of Mars opposing Pluto, and that is due to the retrograde tour of Mars, which started at the beginning of December 6th, and finished at the end of February. And Mars began its retrograde in the sign of Leo and backed into Cancer on the 19th of April. It has moved back into Leo. So the opposition, which happens on Saturday, 2 days from now, is across the Leo Aquarius axis. Pluto's in the sign of Aquarius. And this is really big for evolutionary astrology because Pluto is the planet that we correspond to the soul and the soul's path. And Pluto is the agent of evolution. Wherever Pluto goes, it's non-negotiable change, right? It is the bigger picture evolution, and it is that really strong dynamic. And you may have felt this since the fall of trying to move through something, that there's been this compelling force, that there's been this drive, that there's been this momentum. It has been in the works. It's been grinding away. And the way I've described this Mars-Pluto opposition, this final of three on Saturday, I've described it like finally being able to move through the turnstile. It's like this jam up, this jam up, this jam up. And this one, finally, the turnstile is letting you through, right? And so Mars corresponds to personal will, and it's the whole experiential track, and it's moving through the sign of Leo. So that is actualization, it is that creative impulse here to make the most out of what you have to work with right now. How are you going to take it forward? It's very interesting as well, too. Just the 26th is this Mars-Pluto opposition, and on the 28th, Canada is having a federal election, right? So the momentum is very strong. The turnout at the advanced polling has been record breaking, right? So people have already wanted to get out there and have their will accounted for, right? So it's been very, very dynamic. What do you say about this transit, Kristin?
Wow, it's been long and 7 months long for a lot of
Yeah.
people, right? It's been very emotional, very deep diving, starting with Cancer. Early September, Mars entered Cancer, and then it started to slow down early October, as you mentioned. The big hot points, we've had three Mars-Pluto oppositions, the first early November in Cancer and Capricorn, which really is like feeling at that 29th degree. So it's feeling like something's really wrapping up, or um, I use the example as it's like your final power play before you move into the future, which is really just holding on for dear life, maybe too, before the new begins. As we all know, Pluto entered Aquarius. I think it was the 19th of November for the
Hmm.
next 20 years. So that's just securing that transit in that groove of change. Mars entered Leo early November as well, as you mentioned. And so went through this retrograde back into Cancer and then just re-entered Leo on the 18th of April. And so the second of the oppositions was January 3rd, and the third one is coming this Saturday, the 26th, but we're already in it. We're already feeling it. It's like a waxing energy, this crescendo effect of energy. If you are musically inclined, you know, when the music just grows louder and louder in your life, or the themes become bigger and bigger in your life, you're like, whoa, I can really feel the intensity of Pluto. And Pluto are the deep unconscious desires within your soul. Pluto's communicating to you through your instinct. Even though Pluto, your soul is unconscious, your Mars is very conscious. Your Mars is your ego. Your Mars says, I want this. I want to go after that. I want to create this. I'm going to join in union with this person, you know, join hearts with this person. Mars and Leo now is so passionate. It's so passionate. More passion, more energy, more footwork. That was something I saw recently. More passion, more energy, more footwork. It really is about getting move on. So while there's a lot of resistance, because when we don't know what the future holds, we can freeze. And there's fear when it's something that is not representing what's known or secure. So, but you and I both, we live for the Mars energy, the Pluto Mars energy, because it's so propelling. So at the end of April, I'm seeing three things, not one, but three things that represent a new start. But what you're talking about, Rose, too, in evolutionary astrology, Jeffrey Wolf Green taught that, you know, an opposition for a lot of people can be very intimidating, whether it's in their natal chart or through transit. Like the wild, wild west. You both have you got your hands on your holster, right? And we're posing. All right, who's gonna win this thing, this standoff? It can be so igniting. There can be anger, there can be all sorts of power of wills. And yet what the opposition says is this is your opportunity now to throw off something that's been in the way. So then when you throw it off, it becomes a conjunction. It becomes a new beginning. That opposition, by removing the block, now becomes a conjunction. So it's an Aries energy all of a sudden. So this is the first profound example of the three that I had in mind for this new beginning. The second, I will say too, real quick, Rose, is that as we speak, as we are recording this on Thursday, the 24th of April, Venus has moved in front of the North Node and she's about to move in front of Saturn. Venus parting the curtain. So what's been hidden will now has a chance to come to light. Let's talk about that.
Oh, absolutely. There's been so much activity around the North Node. You know, we've had Saturn, we've had Neptune, we had Venus, we had Mercury, all of them surpassing the North Node, all aligned around this, you know, April, May date. And in addition to the Mars retrograde cycle that we've just come out of, and we've talked about this in other shows as well, too, we've had Venus retrograde, which is a very important retrograde cycle because that is one that is about really going deep and sourcing from within what has value, what has meaning, and it is a cycle that dials up the fate or destiny piece of what the circumstances, what one is calling forth, what one is attracting in the moment, along with the Mercury cycle, which I always say is key person, key circumstance, key event. So I'm sure that our listeners out there, you're going to feel that you have been really dealing with something very important in your life, something very primary, something very key. And this has been going on since the fall, right? You know, all of these things have happened. Um, Mars surpasses the shadow period, the post-shadow period of the retrograde cycle at the beginning of May. And Mercury has just done so over the past week or so, and Venus surpasses its post-shadow in the middle of May. So we've got all of these triggers. The cycle that we're still in the thick of it right now, or the thick of it right now. All of these things are moving to new dynamics. Just that idea of, confronting some circumstance, whether that's an internal challenge that you have, something that's an internal conflict or an external conflict, or some desire, some motivating force, something that's compelling or something that's confronting, whatever it is. It's been grinding, 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 grinding. And as Venus moves in front of Saturn, this is crystallizing a new impulse, a new evaluation, a new magnetic resonance with things. Now we're starting to call forth. It's just a simple. It's like one thing can shift everything, right? Just one thing. It's one thought, one conversation, one action, one whatever it is that starts the ball rolling. And all this Aries energy, it's now, it's instinct, it's experience, it's here, it's right now. You might not have a sense of how to proceed next until you download it, right?
Yeah, I wanted that made me think of something when you're talking about the turnstile earlier. I've used this example. I don't know if I've used it on this show before, but
in thinking of Leo, we think of the stage of life, or, the performance, the show that we all want to attend, and it's like being in the parking lot. We've been in the parking lot for months, right? And we're wanting to get to the show of our life, this third Pluto opposition. This is an opportunity for you to get to the stage of your life. Now, it doesn't have to be a grand stage. It could just be a small stage, or, maybe it's a blank canvas with an easel and your own paints. Maybe that's your stage. But it's, as soon as you move through that turnstile and you give them your ticket, the energy inside the event is so much, there's such a buzz about it. It's so much bigger and grander, so much more Leonian, right? Than the parking lot was. Even if it's a tailgate party, you are waiting for the big event. And it's just this feeling of moving through an evolutionary gate as well. And it kind of reminds me of when you're driving through a parking lot and they have those needles where you can't back up or you'll pop your tire. There's like it's a non-negotiable transit. You can't back up, right? Or you will pop your tires. And so that is how I'm feeling this Leo energy. It's a heart-centered energy, and everybody has a role to play. Everybody can contribute to more heart, more soul on the planet, less fear, more heart. And so that's how I'm feeling this as well.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about that. It's a good description about handing your ticket over. I always think of anything that I'm doing, I'm anxious to get that part of it done. And that anxiety about, like, once you hand the ticket over, you can kind of go, oh, okay, now I'm here.
Yeah, exactly.
Wherever that might be, in the concert, across the border, whatever it might be, on the plane,
Oh, the
whatever it
plane.
is.
Great
And
example.
then you get to, you're pulling forward. And I think this is with this Mars, Pluto, and Venus surpassing Saturn as well, too. And I've been saying this to a lot of clients as well, too, about the anxiety piece, is because you're in your memory pools of what has happened. And that crowds in the experiential track of just being here now. We bring the past forward with us. We bring our anxieties, we bring our fear forward. But when the switch happens, and this is all this Aries energy, you and I know about Aries energy, there's no thinking that goes along with Aries. There's doing, there's action, there's emotion, there's passion, there's feeling, there's like, wow, that this is thrust.
Yes.
And so, whatever you might be wrestling with right now, like I am, this tension that I've got from 5,000 different areas here, I'm actually talking myself down from it right now because I remember how good that feels when the congruence comes together for action, right? For that energy to happen. Now, Aries is also about anger, and it's about aggression and all of that kind of stuff as well too. So when that's the motivation, that can be a bit problematic because we want there to be and Venus is with Saturn right now, so a more controlled response on those kinds of energies. But, even anger can be a useful energy to have when it motivates you to get up and to do something for yourself, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like when something's run its course, you can't handle it one more day, one more moment. The anger will get you over the hurdle.
And what we also teach is that this opposition, any Pluto transit's about eliminating something that doesn't serve the soul anymore, eliminating something that isn't allowing forward movement or evolution. And I ran across this wonderful quote that says, "The mountains do not ask permission to rise. The rivers do not apologize for flowing. And you need no validation to release what no longer serves your becoming." And right, it's because this
Fabulous.
fear
Yeah.
too, it's the fear either what will people think if I do this? What will people think if I quit my job? What will people think if I leave that relationship? And instead of that, not asking for permission, but just trusting in the compass of your soul, trusting that your soul does know the way. It does know. The ego, the mind, it becomes like a roadblock for all of us. Like you said, we bring the fear forward. So when we remove the fear and we really allow ourselves to drop into that knowing, drop into that feeling, we know exactly what we need to do to empower ourselves. We do. So, well, we have a couple charts, but before I share any of those, I wanted to mention that we are in Taurus season. Taurus is ruled by Venus. Venus it's at the tail end of Pisces. It's just when you hear this show, Venus will be in front of Saturn, in front of the North Node in Pisces. It is exalted in Pisces. It loves to be in Pisces. Let's maximize the final days of Venus in Pisces until the 30th of April when Venus moves into Aries. Let it be your prayer. Let it be your meditation. Let it be your dreams. Journal about what it is that would reflect something more ideal to you. What does it look like to tap into your unrealized potential? What does it look like for you to evolve? Imagine, visualize yourself evolved, visualize it, and bring a picture to it. Add all the nuances, the color, add anything you wish for. It's yours, it's private, it's just for you. Do that for yourself as we finish April, because this is really about allowing yourself to have more, giving yourself that dream, not letting fear infuse anything anymore. With Venus behind Saturn, we were all just swimming in it. A lot, the world's been swimming in it. Oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? Venus is also the woman, I would say. Venus and the moon are the two female energies in our solar system. Venus rules Taurus. We're in Taurus season. And as a ruler for Taurus, it represents anything that holds meaning and value to you. And so that anything that feeds your earthly senses, smell, sight, touch, what you hear, the great music that you hear. And I was thinking about Venus, and I was thinking about stones. And this is a stone I'm going to share as my favorite stone to hold, labradorite. This is often symbolized as a stone of magic and protection and transformation. That's a time we're in right now. It connects us to the spiritual realm. It enhances intuition and, for you, Rose, psychic abilities. Although you've already got them down pretty well. It's associated with self-discovery and encouraging exploration of your hidden strengths and your inner your inner hidden strengths that you don't know about. So this is my stone of the month. This might be a new new gig we add, but I've just really been holding this and feeling this. It's such a Taurian energy to reach for those stones that carry a vibration, lay them on a chakra that you feel is closed. Maybe you're not speaking your truth right here, or, up here, if you want really to open that third eye. I mean, find a smaller stone and just lay on the ground and set it there and be with that energy. Allow your energy to open between now and the end of April. I am certain it will shift quite a bit for you.
Fabulous. I love that.
Oh.
The beautiful stone.
Isn't it gorgeous?
Yeah. What
Okay.
I like about the start of May, or going into May, is that all three of the personal planets are in fire. Mercury and Venus are traveling through Aries, and Mars is traveling through Leo. And fire energy is, it's creative and it's spontaneous and it's dynamic, and it's wonderful. It's really good energy to have while the sun is traveling through Taurus. So we've got good fire to light the flame and to stir the creative content there. And then we've got the sun in Taurus to make it real. And I love the combination of that, right?
Ground you in your passions, to
Yeah.
ground you in your desires, to make you feel more secure that you can have it, that it can be real, that it's something substantial, not just some wing and a prayer, which can happen with the Pisces energy.
We can feel that way, right? Oh, this is
Right.
a wing prayer. There's no way. What am I thinking? And I don't know how to bring it from here to here. But yeah, the Taurus helps you bring it here, and the fire helps you have more confidence, right? And courage and that bravery that we need to go after it. Absolutely.
Yeah, and when we launch into May, there's a lovely, lovely aspect on the 2nd of May, Venus conjunct Neptune, right? So Venus and Neptune are going new phase, and then on the 4th of May, Pluto turns retrograde, and outer planets go retrograde every year. They do their annual tour, and Pluto will be retrograde for those 5 to 6 months there. But what I think about that Pluto retrograde is just following the Mars Pluto final opposition, that Pluto has perhaps at this point done enough of its um, forcefulness in terms of that uh, pushing for the shift to take place, for that change to be taking place. So it's done the work necessary to get us over the hump through the turnstile. And now, as it turns retrograde, it's easing off some of that added pressure that it has been putting on us since the fall, because we have now gotten to this starting gate with all of the planets that are moving new phase to the North Node and new phase to each other. We're now able to take the information, the energies that have amassed at this point, and now to take them and to work with them and to do the development that each one of the planets is asking from us. So I think that that's kind of a very, very interesting way to start the month. On the 5th of May, Mercury forms a sextile to Jupiter, which is quite lovely. Jupiter is transiting the sign of Gemini, and that a sextile is always an opportunity combination here. It takes a little bit more to actually put that into action, but it creates, and Mercury and Jupiter are a planetary pair, right? So this is the thinking and the intuition, merging together, working in harmony together to create, some kind of forward motion for you. So that's just in the first few days of May.
Wow, left brain, right brain come together, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're going to share, because we skipped over the new moon, but we're going to go back to it right now. Everybody, I know you're thinking they didn't even talk about the new moon. We're going to go do that. So here we go.
All right, Kristin, here we are. New moon in Taurus.
All right. Well, obviously the new moon is circled with the sun and the moon here. But what I'm really fascinated with, we have a Mars-Pluto opposition the day before, and we don't split hairs, as they say, when we're looking at an opposition. I mean, we're in it now, and we will be in it on Sunday still, but it will be waning. So you can see that the sun and the moon is also squaring Pluto and Mars. We're going to move to the next slide to show you that. So we've got the sun and the moon squaring Pluto on the left and Mars on the right in the middle of their opposition. Also, Rose, can you show Venus with your cursor in front of Saturn with the North Node? So it's still in that Pisces ethereal kind of foggy place, but it is new. It's like you're stepping out into the light again. You're feeling a little bit more love in life, love for life, and love in life, hopefully. And we are also waiting for Venus to move into Aries on April 30th and then move in front of Neptune, which was the conjunction you spoke about. What day was that? Was that
The
Venus?
conjunction of I don't have it. I don't have it.
Okay.
I
Venus
don't
moves
have it
in
in my
front of Neptune.
Venus and Neptune. Venus and Neptune on the 2nd of May.
Right. So just a
Yeah.
few days later. So
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
as
yeah.
you can see, there's a lot going on here. How do you incorporate? So we've got a Pluto-Mars opposition, which is a non-negotiable aspect. See, I'm going to use this now, Rose. I love that. It is non-negotiable. It truly is like being in the middle of a wave. You cannot swing back to the sea. You're in, you've committed. Your soul's committed. Even if your ego says, no way, Jose, your soul has committed to this move. You've committed to the show. You've committed to the stage. You've committed to your next chapter. And so the new moon also helps. It's like, hey, this is new too. And it's a new emotional beginning for you. Venus, which rules Taurus, just moved in front of Saturn and the North Node, another new energy. So there's three. Pluto-Mars opposition, new moon in Taurus. Venus, the ruler of Taurus, is moved in front of the North Node and Saturn. Those are three very significant energies and transits that are supporting something new in your life, a new foundation, a new way forward, a new outlook, new passion. But more so, as you said, I love that. I'm going to recite this again. All the personal planets in fire signs, Mars and Leo. We've got Venus in Aries and Mercury in Aries, all fire. We're just waiting for Venus to clear her shadow the middle of May. But for all intents and purposes, it's going to feel so new by May 1st, by May 1. How do you interpret that? How do you interpret this T-square?
Well, I just have to say that when you look at this chart here, and you see these planets in Pisces here, and remember that Mercury also took a retrograde in Pisces, and of course we had the month of Pisces as well too. We've had all of this incredible energy, and Neptune has on the 30th of April, Neptune ingressed into Aries for the first time in 165 years. Wow. Neptune, ruler of Pisces. But I just think of all this activity that's been going back and forth over the North Node. Venus has been there and Mercury has been there, and we have Ceres in this chart as well too. That's still balsamic. This is Ceres right here, balsamic to that North Node, and coming across all these planets as well too. That's a lot of stirring of the ocean, and Pisces. That
Will you explain what Ceres means? Because not everybody knows.
Ceres is in the asteroid belt. She is the largest asteroid in the asteroid belt. She is the archetype of the mother goddess, Demeter from the Greeks, and she was promoted to a planetoid at the same time that Pluto was demoted to a planetoid. Basically, she is the sister of Pluto and Zeus, Jupiter, and she has a transformative archetype like Pluto does, a metamorphic. Regenerative archetype here as she is traveling through Pisces. This is all a lot of stirring of the ocean. And when I think of the ocean, I think of all the life that is in the ocean. All of, the ocean is teeming with life. And water is, of course, spirit, and it is the element of our life. We're made up of mostly water anyway. So, with this Pisces, the archetype of potential. This has been on stir for such a long time as Neptune is finished up in its own sign and moved forward. And, I just realized that this chart right here with Venus at 28 and Saturn about to complete its tour on May 24th. Saturn is going to advance into Aries as well, too. But, in the fall, we're going to have an eclipse. And now I've forgotten the date of it. I think it might be the 7th of September. And it's Virgo Pisces at 29 degrees, right? So whatever is going on here with this new moon will take us all the way through until the fall as well, too. We're going to be processing that with, as I just said a few moments ago, Pluto moving into retrograde and these planets moving forward. We're in a very dynamic, I just think that all of the Pisces stimulation that has been taking place for months on end here has been infusing the potential with as much life force as it can possibly be saturated with. So as we move forward from Pisces to Aries, this is very, very dynamic. You know how Pluto is that agent of non-negotiable change, but you know how difficult it is for any of us to make really deep core fundamental change. You want to, you might make attempts at it, but this is really complete, I think, in terms of how the potency of it, the total immersion program of it. This is the whole dynamic of infusing till it gets to a saturation point where it can have its breakthrough. And that's the Aries piece, right?
That's so good, Rose. It's amazing. I mean, to have Ceres
Even behind the North Node now. And, she is a very powerful goddess and also is linked with recovering something lost from the past and Plutonian fashion. As souls, I mean, there's all sorts of things that we want to recover and re-empower ourselves with, right? Things that have been suppressed and denied, and because of judgments and persecutions, and whether you're male or female. I mean, the male wants to access the inner goddess as well.
Right.
So we know the goal is for us all to become equally the divine masculine and the divine feminine in equal measure and equal amounts, no matter what gender you find yourself in. So the more that you can embody both sides of the divine masculine and the divine feminine, the better. But she is a powerful force. And just to see this straddling of energy between Pisces and Aries, and we've talked about this before and we've been writing about it, Neptune and Saturn, while Saturn will be entering, we'll talk about this here in a little bit, will be entering Aries as well. Both Neptune and Saturn are going to back into Pisces again in the fall. So this whole year, just know that you're in a process, an evolutionary process that might take you pulling back some at times, trying something new, seeing how it feels. How far do I want to go? How high can this rise? Am I ready for this? And maybe taking a breather. That may be the case in the fall as we go back to that watery period, the saturation, the infusion. I love those words for Pisces because we want to, and we need to be permeated with this energy, because that means every cell of our soul is on board. Every piece of us, not parts of us. We want to be saturated with who we are. we want to be purified with something that isn't positive, that doesn't serve us, any self-undermining energy. We want bye-bye, gone, right? Permeate with the purity of who you are, with the purity of your potential. Wonderful image. So as you look at this new moon with Pluto opposing Mars, it is clearing the way. It's like being on the road and there's something obstructing your ability to move beyond it. You physically have to get out of the car and move it in order to keep moving. That is what I'm seeing here.
Oh, I just wanted to mention to the Mars-Pluto opposition on the 26th, that's the Pope's funeral.
Whoa.
Amazing,
Wow.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really amazing. Do we have more slides here to put forward?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we can, so we've got also, I was just moving through some of these transits and thinking, this has got to be my favorite transit of the month. Uranus. I don't know why. I just love it when Uranus is, I know why. Of course I know why, because Uranus, when it's in stress, nobody wants it anywhere near us, right? Like it creates that, ramped up nervous system and this anticipatory anxiety. Nobody loves to feel that. But when Uranus is in a precision position, which it is, trining the South Node in Virgo, which is literally about cutting through all those fears and doubts, just literally eliminating them, like lightning, boom, gone, and forming a sextile to the North Node. I mean, this is a rare aspect. I mean, it definitely hasn't been here, at least linked with these nodes in this way for who knows how long before we've probably been alive, in terms of this particular aspect at this time. So it gives us extra energy, and even, I don't know, the spontaneity to just to go before we can think about it, right? To make your move before it even comes up to the brain. It's just boom. Uranus is about brainstorms or the great idea, the breakthrough, manifesting a reality that you've never known before. And it is sextiling a North Node in Pisces, so it can take you to another level.
Well, and this is going to be operative for the duration of the month in actuality, because both Uranus and the nodes are, the Uranus is a slow mover, but the sun will be conjunct that Uranus on the 17th of May. And on that date, we also have Mercury square Mars moving forward as well, too. But I think that the nodes, when the nodes are being stimulated, what they do is they set environmental conditions. The backdrop is set, and so for Uranus to be in this lovely angle for most of the month, with the Taurus archetype, it is about that ability to realize. And I think about this in terms of entertaining the new possibility, or acclimatizing to the new realities quite quickly. I think, new elements are coming in, but we can see, how you sometimes know that things are meant to be. Do you know? It's like you can feel that energy. This might be new territory for me, or I might be having new thought processes, or I'm evaluating in some kind of new way, or I'm relating to my circumstances, or my life or my relationships in some kind of new way. But this facilitates, it allows for that to be realized in a way that creates the momentum. It's like a natural moving forward. And then you align the sun with that. Mercury squaring Mars, again, that's an over the hump archetype. Mercury is in what we call a last quarter square to the Mars energy on the 17th, which means that the shifts have taken place, and now I can move away from the what was and move into what is developing here. it feels like that natural transition with the Sun and Uranus together there. That creative force is so very strong. And Aquarius, or sorry, I meant to say Uranus, is an acceleration, even though it is in the sign of Taurus. It is moving things along at a rate that is, I'll just say, well timed.
To realize it's an RE word, it's like a retrograde word. Nothing's retrograde right now at all.
Mm-hmm.
But we are recovering
still, because we're still within the shadow until the middle of May of Venus. I love that word, Rose. It's
Mm-hmm.
a Pisces word. It's so beautiful to realize something. It's also to remember something in some cases, right? To wake up to something again. That is Uranus, to be really more aware, awakened, enlightened. There's no better feeling to just wake up from something if you feel like you've been asleep to it for a long time. I mean, that's liberating. That's Uranian. And so anyway, yes, we've got this transit pretty much all night, though not all night, all month. those nodes will toggle, and it's definitely within reach all month. So really make your breakthrough. Even if it's an internal breakthrough, it will manifest as an outer breakthrough in a matter of time. We have to start within. That's the new moon in Taurus. The new inner relationship to yourself must radically change in some cases for the outer picturing to follow, right? It's an inside out process, life, evolution. Taurus is all about your inner relationship to yourself, intimacy with yourself first. And through the inner open door, through extension, you are connecting with what created you, with God, with source energy. That is the teaching here, especially with all this Pisces influence now, with Neptune and Venus merging, learning that we are plugged in to a power source so great. Most of us just pretend it's not there or don't even utilize it at times because we might be racked in fear or just caught up in a past programming. Tune in, even with the new moon that wants you to move out, come inside for that light, for that energy, for that power source. And the path will be illuminated for you with Uranus forming these gorgeous aspects to the nodal axis. I'm very inspired by this, Rose. Very real.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay.
And I should mention too that Mercury is in the sign of Aries. On the 10th of May, it will move into Taurus. And Mercury is moving quite quickly. It will tenant or transit Taurus for just 15 days. So by the end of the month, by the 25th of May, it will be moving into Gemini. So we've got, and I find this quite interesting, just thinking about the Pope and the Pope's passing, and the conclave happening and moving into a vote and so on. It's a little bit of a metaphor, I think, for the way the action is going as well too. We've got all this convergence of all these individuals coming together and then having discussions and having votes. It's like the planets are doing that, right? And then coming out with a consensus, right? So I think that's what the first 2 weeks of May is about in terms of just a little bit that I've tuned into with the Pope. It's about 9 days before they get started on all of that. And we've got these aspects. We've got a full moon. We're going to talk about that on the 12th of May. And Mercury is square Pluto on that day. I think that middle month, the 12th to the 17th of May, right now we're in that kind of like, we've still got Venus in Pisces and to the end of April. And we've got all these kind of energies that are, trying to find where their even watermark is, and I think that week here will be solidifying in some way.
So I just wanted to mention too, which I thought was so amazing, that May 1st is when Mars clears the shadow from the retrograde. It's that 7-month period is final. And it's on that same day that Uranus makes an exact trine to the south node, sextile to the north node to the minute. I ran the chart. So I don't want to oversell May 1st.
My question to you all, what do you want to change? Like, what is the one thing, if you could change, your life would just be, glorious. Um, so, ask yourself that, because Uranus is a higher octave of Mercury. And so when you think something, it can manifest through this transit, through just putting out that thought into the universe, putting out that desire, really screaming it out loud, if you wish, um, writing it down, just making an extra effort to commit to that vision that you have, and follow it through with some gusto, some effort. That is a powerful way to start May.
Well, and it's also aligned with Venus and Neptune conjunct, and Venus is the lower octave of Neptune, higher octave, right? So again, we have that infused with your ultimate ideals, your ultimate potentials. It's a lovely aspect for aspiring and feeling inspiration.
So, hey, Rose, when you say watermark, do you mean like tattoo?
Or your fingerprint? Would you call it your new watermark? What would you call it?
Finding that watermark, yeah, like that, right?
Yeah, like,
That imprint, right? What level
right.
are you at? What level are you at, right?
Yeah. What is that mark? What is that symbol for you? It's like creating your own new stationery with your own watermark in it.
Yeah.
What's it going to look like? And because we're evolving beings, we're not static souls, right? We're constantly in a state of becoming, progressively through life, through our choice making. And this is a powerful time for your choices that are rooted in what the soul wants. So your watermark will likely change and evolve.
What else have we got on the PowerPoint
Let's
here?
go ahead and move forward.
Ah,
So something I really wanted to weave in today are a couple of goddess asteroids that are Lilith and Pallas Athene are conjunct while trining Jupiter. And this is happening at the new moon, actually. So I see this as setting the stage for the next 2 weeks until the full moon, this energy. And they're both in Aquarius. So again, it's whether you're a woman wanting to just break free or just be innovative and alternative in your pursuits for making change in your life and transforming your path in some way. Trining Jupiter, this is all about living your authentic self, speaking your truth, standing on your own, being a voice of one if necessary, to have really the chutzpah and the impetus to do that. So Lilith is the original woman, pre-Eve. So how God created you as a woman would be Lilith. And Lilith is independent, alluring, self-reliant, whole into herself. She needs no validation from anybody else to feel that way. So who doesn't want to embody that? Even if you're a man wanting to embody that side and of the feminine within you. And as a woman, you want to stand in your truth unapologetically. Now, Pallas Athene is just brilliant energy, ultimately. I see her as a Uranian energy because she's the goddess of intelligence. Even Mars fears her because he thinks she may outsmart him at war. So she is an Amazon goddess asteroid. And so she will infuse you with that courage to speak up no matter what. This is my truth, and let the chips fall where they may. That's what I love about this in the midst of a Pluto Mars opposition, to have the courage to speak what is true for you, to live your truth, and to stand in it, no matter what.
I also think that Pallas Athena is how it all comes together, right? And that lovely trine to Jupiter is how we can see how the bits and pieces come together as a unified whole, right? And that can be the fragmented parts of yourself and
Oh,
how you
yeah.
piece them together, right? Yeah. Yeah. I talked a little bit about Ceres earlier, but Ceres in Pisces, that's the goddess in her sacred regalia, perhaps. Um,
Yeah.
you know, um, Ceres is a transit that she moves about 3 to 4 months through a sign. But she is moving into Aries. Again, the date of that is the 16th of May. And because of her retrograde pattern, whenever Venus Ceres does a retrograde, she spends about 11 months in the sign. So Ceres is going to move into Aries on the 16th of May, and we already have Neptune freshly into Aries, and Saturn will begin its 2.5 year transit in Aries starting on May 24. And Ceres will be there for the rest of the year. And Ceres, she fought for her daughter Persephone. When Persephone was abducted by Pluto, Lord Hades, right? And she is an advocate. So Ceres has good fight in her, and this is about fighting for your rightful dues is what I always say that Aries is about, for you fighting for yourself in some kind of new way to allow yourself to have the freedom to be you, authentically you, totally you, not to make those needless sacrifices to abandon yourself, right? To find yourself again. Ceres is going to be with us right through the end of the year. So it calls upon your inner warrior to come forward, as does Neptune in Aries. I wrote about this in last month's column, saying that it called to the spiritual warrior in all of us. But, this lights a fresh flame there, and it's all about inspiration, and it's all about the whole creative track that the whole creative process of being, of living yourself. It's existence, but it's more than that. Who am I? Who am I? Right? I am me. I am entirely me, right? So this is really quite a dynamic transit.
I love it. Putting yourself on the front lines.
Putting yourself on the front line. Yeah.
All right, let's move to the next slide. I just really wanted to add this too. This is an evolutionary teaching when there's a planet
Squaring the nodes in a natal chart or a transiting chart. What does that mean? And we call it a skip step. It's a place where historically we've gotten stuck if you have a natal planet squaring the nodes. But through transit, a Jupiter squaring the nodes is really about, it can bring up areas where you're not following your truth or being true to yourself. Jupiter rules compensation, compensating for who you actually are in some way. And that will come up at this time if it's happening anywhere or with anyone, where you're not really telling them what you think, the truth of what you think, because you're a fear of what might happen if you do. Will there be negative consequences? So obviously with Mercury and Aries, everyone's feeling a little more courageous to speak up. And so how do you see, and this skip step, by the way, is going to be happening all month, so we can work on really living our truth more and stepping into our power, stepping into that courage, and feeling empowered by that. How do you see this skip
So
step?
to always remember that wherever the transiting nodes are, it's an 18-month cycle. And first of all, the nodes moved into Virgo Pisces in January, and they will transit those signs for the next 18 months. And wherever the nodes go, the rulers of the nodes have more potency. So this is why Mercury, which is a fast-moving planet, has more potency now than usual, because for the next 18 months, it is the ruler of the South Node. And currently it's traveling through the sign of Aries. On the 10th of May, it's going to move into Taurus. So we're taking, that new instincts, in the experiential track, into the Taurus archetype, which is now that I these instincts and this experiential track. While Mercury is in the sign of Taurus, it's an evaluation on, all of these new impulses that are coming up, and what's worthwhile and what's got enough life force to go forward with. The Jupiter square here is moving away from the Pisces end and picking up on the Virgo end of things, right? And the South Node in Virgo. Virgo is two things. It's looking to correct, to improve, and to heal. It's also eliminating what no longer serves. This is the Virgo Pisces end of things. So the Jupiter transit is in that square is making that more obvious, bringing more information in, getting more signals in terms of, it's a Jupiter and Gemini, the signals. What are the signals saying? And those are the dialogues that are happening inside of yourself. I can't keep doing that anymore. I don't want this anymore. I feel like I want to go this direction. It's these thought patterns that keep coming, they keep reappearing, and you keep getting more of those that are giving you information. The next thing is about acting on them, right? It's about implementation here. But this is that whole transit is Jupiter and Gemini is going to explore a lot of different options. The Virgo South Node is saying, not here, not there, not this, right? And the more that we are taking a look at that, and I always say that when you're in dilemma, this is the thing, like take it on, like, create the vision of it in your mind's eye and then poke holes in it. If you're kind of going, yeah, I really want to do this, but oh God, that might be a little bit difficult, then that's the information that's going to help you to get to the clarity point that says, I can't live with these 5 things, but I can live with these 3 things, right? So this is this whole qualifying that Jupiter is doing. Jupiter and Gemini, you and I both have that transit. That's too much data, too much information, right? It can be everything all at once. But the Virgo piece of that is meant to qualify. The Pisces part of that is meant to relinquish some things, right? While you're relinquishing, this whole thing is about getting clearer on the potentials that hold merit. That's Taurus, right? That's a Taurus archetype. What potentials are most worthwhile to invest in?
Yeah, and I wanted to share too, is this talking with a friend who was having some challenges in his relationship and just overthinking, all this fear stuff came in, all the hard stuff was coming up. I mean, look at this Pluto Mars opposition. It is going to unearth everything you don't want to feel at times. And he finally just kind of surrendered. He's like, just gotta go to God. I just gotta go to God. And when you look at that Jupiter, the resolution node is the North Node in Pisces. It's to the left. If you stand on the skip step and you look to the left, this is a resolution node. This is how you resolve the skip step, that Jupiter square. And instead of trying to force something or just fix it, which is a Virgo thing, he just let go and he surrendered. And all of a sudden, all this stress, all this worry, all this strife became like more flow, more peace. And you just let another energy or force guide you, lead you, or just, take over. Jesus, take the wheel.
And that's it. Well, Venus is in, Mercury is in Aries, it becomes more obvious.
Yeah,
And when
obvious.
and when Mercury goes into Taurus, it's about simplifying, right?
Yeah.
It's more
Yeah.
straightforward, Yeah.
Yeah,
But
this is really about being, starting with being intimate with your life, with yourself, with your soul, with your time. I mean, really changing the definition of intimacy. And, that can transfer to partnership, but it has to be cultivated within yourself first in every direction, from the bottom up, from the center outward. And that's the way we rewire through these Uranian influences, rewire your vibration, your frequency. So it becomes more attractive to the person you want it to be, or so the world can receive your signal with greater clarity. That's what this time's about. It must start with you.
And that's an interesting thing with Pisces is a privacy archetype as well too. And I think like with the Mercury and Aries, you can entertain these new impulses and these new thoughts in your own mind. That's private, right? But the more you do, the more you acclimatize, or the more you get, the more the courage piece starts to drop into place, as you give that. So acclimatizing to entertain the idea to begin with, sit with it, and let it energize its own life force.
Exactly.
Right.
Go ahead. Next slide.
Ooh, this full moon in Scorpio. Wow. This is quite a full moon, isn't it? It's very dynamic, as I mentioned a few moments ago. We have Mercury in, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I'm back. Oh gosh, something messed up here in my slides. Okay, there we go. Sorry. Mercury is sitting here at 3 Taurus, and it is squaring that Pluto, which is at this point retrograde, so we've got that dynamic tension of Mercury surpassing, that point is an activation point for making some kind of breakthrough at that point. Again, Mercury is very triggered because it is the ruler of the South Node, as I just mentioned a moment ago. And the full moon in Pisces, which of course is disposited by that Pluto in Aquarius. This is like a sudden jolt, right? This full moon. The moon angle, 22 degrees Scorpio, that we see right up here, is forming a trine to Ceres, which is balsamic to Saturn. This is a balsamic energy, is two things. It is both a release and a letting go and a dissolving pattern, but it is also stimulating potential. It's a seeding archetype. In Ceres, I always call her the goddess of the seasons. She's the goddess of the seed, the goddess of the grain, the goddess of the harvest here. So there's a great deal of potential. It's being seeded right here with this full moon. And the Sun and Uranus are still in forming a lovely trine and sextile to the nodal axis at the same time. And as Venus moves into the sign of Aries, which it does on the 30th of April, for most of the month, as you can see here, it's forming a lovely trine to Mars in Leo, right? It perfects that on the 22nd of May. So we have Mars and Venus in good angle as well, too. What do you say about this full moon?
Well, I mean, as you were talking, that's where I was fixated, because you see Uranus involved in
this, and it can create a lot of those jolts and surprises. Because it's Scorpio, our deepest fears can surface under this transit. I'm wondering about the power plays that will be going on the planet, politically and otherwise. So that's concerning. I think about earthquakes with Uranus in this case, or Earth events. But obviously not everyone experiences them in the same way. Everyone's going to have a different experience of any transit. But immediately I'm looking to Venus, because that rules Taurus. It rules the Sun in Taurus, Uranus in Taurus, and we have Venus in Aries, yes. Sextiling Pluto, essentially, and trining Mars. So, almost always, in almost every situation, there's going to be a channel for release. There's a way through everything or anything, unless it's your time to leave the planet. But, right, Rose? I mean, come on, there's always a way through something. And so, I think it's important for all of us to have perspective, to see things ahead of time, to also remember, of course, I need to repeat this again. We have Uranus trining the South Node and sextiling the North Node. This, to me, is going to be a predominating force or energy or influence. Uranus rules Pluto and Aquarius. So Pluto's a ruler for the full moon. Uranus is a key component and a key player. It says, okay, how can I respond differently this time? Right? Because maybe there's something that continues to come up in a relationship or with a boss, and it's the same old thing and it's triggering you all over the place, but you know ahead of time now this might be coming. It feels very karmic. It feels very fated. And the question to ask yourself, how can I respond differently? Can I come in through the side door, the back door, so it's not so explosive? Or let's just evolve beyond this already. So I think it is important to understand, number one, why is your soul calling this in? Why is my soul creating this? What is it that I keep bumping up against? Even if it's the emotions involved. Either way, you're going to be okay, you say. Either way, I'm going to be okay. And whatever is coming up, I'm needing this in order to evolve beyond this place I keep getting pinned. Jupiter's still squaring the nodal axis. Lilith and Pallas are still trining Jupiter. And so again, another channel for release, another channel to empower yourself. I mean, welcome these energies. Welcome them if they're going to allow you to empower yourself forward.
What I think, Moon in Scorpio, of course, that's going to be so very potent. It is going to be really dynamic change. Scorpio, it changes everything. It drills right down to the core. It is very targeted for whatever it needs to break through all of those layers to get to that really fundamental core change, whatever it is. It's Taurus Scorpio, which is the survival axis. That's very important. Of course, politically, we have all kinds of things going on about monetary and so on. But this has to do with soul survival and so forth. There's a couple things with this transit. When you're looking at events, and this is a horary, I think, but we look at the last aspect that the moon makes before it leaves the sign. The last aspect that moon in Scorpio is going to make is a lovely trine to Saturn, right? And so this is a release point. It is that Pluto in Scorpio is going to create fundamental change, fundamental, non-negotiable change, inevitable, Moon and Scorpio, inevitable change, whatever it is that you've been resisting, whatever it is that you've been struggling with. This is, this full moon in Scorpio, if it's hitting your chart, it is going to be very, very impactful for once and for all, or for that decisive moment. And when you look at this moon position here, it is forming a yod to Jupiter and to Chiron in Aries. And the release point of that Jupiter, moon to Jupiter, that 150 degrees for students of astrology, this is in a corrective position. That moon to that Jupiter is, as we just talked about a moment ago, it's a qualifying aspect. It is with the Jupiter in Gemini, whatever that rationale is, or whatever that projection is on why I have to keep going, or why that this is important, or why it has to go this way. That moon is going to show the folly in that argument, or that thought process, and show where that needs to be adjusted. And the moon to the Virgo piece, that is, I meant to say, to the Chiron in Aries here, is also very confronting, which is a suggestion always of, that there's something external that is problematic, or something external here that is challenging, that I need to figure out how to navigate my way. As you just said, do I come in the back door, the side door? Do I back up? Do I do whatever? What kind of shift do I need to make there? And the solution, or the resolution piece, is that Sun-Uranus conjunction right there in Taurus, right? And the Sun and Uranus, they're in balsamic relationship. So they're doing, two things, is that, they are completing, they're finishing, but they're also seeding. And that Sun Uranus, I just think that this is an acceleration trigger here for moving whatever it is. You know how you get kind of jammed up, jammed up, jammed up. This is going to move that jam up a lot faster, and it's going to be so intense and so swift that it might, in actuality, it might, if you have a prolonged period of suffering, that's harder than ripping the bandage off all at once,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
not so much. I mean, that might be that kind of challenge right there. But once um, how things have shifted, then you can work with that. And I think that's what we see in this is taking it out of the guesswork place and putting it into the stark reality position.
Right. And thankfully, both the sun and the moon
Are also beautifully aspecting the nodes, right? The moon is with only 3 degrees to a trine to that north node. Oh, wow. The moon
Well,
is
and I think what we all want is change, though,
right. Of
right?
course. Exactly.
So that's at Sun Uranus. I want things to change. I want things to radically change. I want radical improvement, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Radical departure from the past.
yeah.
And we all want things to feel better for us, right? That's a Taurian thing. Not to be shaken up all the time by this news or that news. And but yeah, and we established that change within ourselves first. So sometimes
And
the full
I,
moon, yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
was just gonna say,
again, I just want to repeat that Venus is in trine to Mars, and it's
right.
in Aries. So this is again about recentering yourself. It is about what I can do, what I want to do, what will work for me. What works for me works for we.
That's true. That's true. All right. Well, a powerful full moon coming up, but also it's loaded with potential, positive potential. It just might feel uncomfortable on the way in.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a lot to deal with just after the fact, but it will have you thinking in a whole new way and evaluating in a whole new way, right? And I've already mentioned this, so we can maybe move over the series in Aries. This is going to infuse more Aries energy into the whole rest of the year ahead. So time to put on your dust off your warrior self and go for it, right? And we have a book here, a series, Recovering Your Soul Within Nature, written by Mary Blue. It's a fantastic book for those who don't have it. It's on Amazon, right? Saturn enters Aries May 24 of 2025. I think we're going to be talking about this for some time to come, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What would you like to say now? I'm going to stop
Well,
the share here.
so Saturn. What can I say about Saturn is the structural nature of consciousness. Saturn
Is like the skin and bones that hold your soul inside, right? It protects us. And so wherever Saturn is in your chart conditions all the other planets in your chart. It's like the wrapping of that energy. So when we look at Saturn and Aries through transit, it's infusing all the other planets with that Aries fire, right, Rose? It's just like everything's got more fire. Everything's being held by more or with more fire. And so life can feel more fiery. It can feel triggering. It can feel new. It can feel passionate. And when I think of Saturn and Aries, I mean, it is illuminating a new way forward. It's allowing us to plan for new ways to be in the world long term, new ways to be in our body long term, new ways to be in our relationships long term. And it's imagine if you found a plot of land and you want to build a house. Wouldn't this be amazing, Rose? You go out and find the perfect piece of land somewhere and you decide you want to build a house. So that house, that foundation, those walls, that roof is all the beams, the wood, the concrete, it's Saturn. That house is holding your soul inside, right? And so that's the energy. What's going to be the energy for a while? You got to get used to the fire if you're not used to the fire. So it's giving you an opportunity to bring new life to bring new life into your world, into your journey. And you are the director of this thing. You're the choice maker. Saturn in Aries is ruled by Mars. And so Mars is the lead point in our evolution as a ruler for Aries. Our choices dictate how fast and how far we evolve in any given life. The power is within us. It is, even though it feels like things are happening outside of us all the time. Part of those tests, Saturn, are linked with how we are going to respond to something. If we react, it's a setback. If we respond in a more enlightened or a more, I don't know, heightened place within ourselves, a more peaceful place, then we can evolve. So that's going to be a long discussion in the future, Rose.
Yeah.
As we
I was just going to say that, Saturn is an economist, right?
yeah.
It's not about a bunch of variables. It is, Saturn is about priorities, right? It's about, the serious intent that the soul has for your evolution. And it's very specific when it's Saturn. And Aries is also very well directed, right? So Saturn in Aries is going to be very targeted on whatever the essential is, whatever the sole priority is. Saturn in Aries is going to make a beeline directly towards it. Right. And of course, that's a, 29 and a half year transit. So wherever 29 and a half years ago, 19, I've forgotten now, the years. But, if you think back to that period of time, it's going to be transiting the same part of your chart. And so it's going to put you under pressure wherever, that transit sits for the next 2.5 years to get really serious and to get yourself very well directed and onto target with what that essential is for you to be able to to grab, to manifest. Saturn is a builder archetype here, and we want to build, with Aries, that strength from within. It's like refortifying, is building a very, very solid building that is going to be able to withstand any kind of earth rocking that there might be. Yeah, we're going to be talking about that transit as we come up. Saturn in Aries and Neptune in Aries will not meet until February 20th of 2026. They're going to be in close proximity for the rest of this year. So we have both dissolving and construction going on at the same time, right? So we've gone quite a lot longer than we anticipated today. And we're going to be speaking about Saturn in Aries throughout the rest of the year, I'm sure, right?
I think what people can really take from that is
You will know what you want
Mm-hmm.
by then. It'll be clear because
Yeah.
your instincts will be so strong. I love the word targeted that you use. Our Aries is so targeted, so direct. It's so impulsive. It's so instinctual. There's no forethought. That in your whole body will be moving towards something you want. You won't even have to think about it. So with all this Pisces energy, things have been a little bit not so clear at times, right? We haven't always been totally clear how it looks moving forward. So you will soon. I do want to close with just a little passage from Prophetess by Shalon Harkin about it's a Mars Venus passage about intimacy, the intimacy of life, I would say. Venus being the ruler for Taurus. We long for and hide from intimacy in almost equal measure. We fear intimacy's rejection would be our undoing, and its close embrace would be our remaking. Say yes to the closeness with life, and intimacy will uncork your crown chakra and pour God through you. You will become sodden with music, dripping with poetry, and longing for more of yourself to share with your beloved. Intimacy is a treasure map. Touched by it, the soul plunders the abundance of life. Each atom becomes a jewel. Say yes to this closeness with life, and intimacy will pollinate you with longing and leave you with no rest.
Fabulous.
Is that not Taurus or what?
Yeah.
Taurus, Scorpio, polarity. So yes, intimacy starts within. We wish you intimacy in life. How fun was this today, Rose? And we'll be evolving our show a bit, adding a few pearls here and there, but it was a joy. It's 11:11. I'm looking at my clock. There's our validation. Thank you so much for being on the journey with me. And thank you all for being with us today.
Thank you. Bye.
Namaste.